Welcome to LiveDaf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf Yomi Avodah Zarah Daf Ayin Aleph. We begin at the Mishnah, which is on Ayin Amud Beis, towards the bottom. So it's 4 lines off the bottom. Says the Mishnah, Beileshes shenichnas al'ir. Beileshes is a group of soldiers. Okay, so they're entering the city, and legally they have a right to put together any food and drink that they find and use it for personal consumption. So they came to the town, and the question is, what about the wine? Kosher wine sitting in this town in various homes, which the troops entered. Shall we be concerned that they did nisuch, that they went ahead and they wiggled the wine and they sloshed the wine with Avodah Zarah in mind, in which case everything becomes asur? So it depends on the circumstance. B'shas shalom, if it's peacetime, so they're not in a rush, they have all the time, in the world. Chaviyos pesuchos asuros. So if they passed by open barrels, then they're asur, for concern that they tampered with the wine. Stumos mutaros, but if they're sealed, then they're safe. They're deemed to be safe. We're not concerned that they may have opened it and resealed it. No. B'shas milchama. But during wartime, then things are different. They have no time to do a nisuch. Elu ve'elu mutaris, whether the barrels are sealed or open. The wine in them is kosher, is deemed safe. So even if they may have taken a drink, there's no time. They're not focused on doing nisuch, worshipping their idols. They're in a rush. They're harried. They're not focused. So therefore, even if they took a drink, and typically if a guy touches wine, it becomes asur as well. Stam yenam, right? It's midrabanan, because if you touch, then you may have. But in this case, say the Mefarshim, since nisuch is not really on their agenda, so there's no gzeira d'Rabbanan on this wine, even if it was touched and tampered with by the guy. So again, if it's during peacetime, b'shas shalom, open barrels, that's deemed to be tainted. But closed barrels, if it's sealed, they wouldn't have opened it and resealed it. They would have left it open. It wouldn't have bothered, So if it's sealed, it's okay. But b'shas milchama, everything's considered to be protected. Asks the Gemara V'Ramini, we have a kasha from a Mishnah, Mesachas Ksubos, where it seems that even during wartime, they're engaged in all kinds of nefarious activities. So we have a city that was captured by troops. All women that are kohanis, meaning they're wives of kohanim, in which case, even if they were forced to spend time with a man, they would be considered asur. They become affected and tainted with respect to going back to their husbands. So all those kohanis, kol kohanis in this town that was attacked, pesulos, are now puzzled with respect to continuing on with their husbands. Why? Because there's concern that they may have been attacked by these soldiers. So apparently, even during wartime, these things are a concern. Amar Rav Mari, big difference. Lanasich ein pnai. To worship their idols with the wine, there's no time for that. Libol yesh pnai, but to engage women, that they have time for. Says the Mishnah, Umnin shal Yisrael. So you have a Jewish worker hired by a guy. Comes pay time. Instead of a check, the guy sends him a barrel of wine. And he sends them forbidden wine as payment for their work. Now, they don't want the wine. Can they exchange the wine for money? Typically, you can't have any benefit. You can't exchange non-kosher wine. You can't have enough from it. So what about here? Says the Mishnah they could. So even though the guy sent him a chavish al yayin nesach b'scharim, mutar loimer loy, they can turn back and say, look, tein loners damel, we'd like the value, give us the money. Because they haven't yet taken possession, they haven't really acquired that wine, it's not theirs. He owes them wages. he attempted with wine, they're insisting on money. However, once they took possession, so they accepted it, now they can't turn around, they can't turn around and go and switch it for money, because now they're basically selling the wine, which they can't. A similar halacha, a person can tell a guy, do me a favor, say, go out and satisfy on my behalf. Manas hamelach. Rashi explains, they had this tax called arnoina. So everybody would be obligated to transfer, a portion of their produce, 10% of their, their crop, their animals, their wine, to the government. No tax. So you can tell this agent, do me a favor. Take care of it for me. So even though the guy is giving wine, right, instead of the Yid giving his own wine, the guy is taking care of it. And later the Yid, will pay him back. It's okay. Because why would it be a problem? You see, because the guy is paying off the Jew's debt with non-kosher wine. And then the Jew will compensate him. So it's like he's buying off, he's paying for that non-kosher wine. And it's as though he had anah. He benefited from that non-kosher wine, which was used to pay off his debt. We don't say that. It's not an issue. Rashi explains, you know why? Because really, this debt could have been satisfied with money. You can choose to pay actual produce or wine. You can pay with money. So technically, it could have been a monetary payment. Although the guy decided to pay it off with wine, which happened to be non-kosher, but the Jew technically did not have any benefit from that because it was the guy's choice to use wine. He could have used money. Meisvei, here comes a kasha. Brisa says, a Yid should not turn to a guy and say, take my place. Approach the oitzer, the official, tax collector, on my behalf, and pay off my tax. You can't do that, right? Because if the guy now pays off the wine instead of the Yid, so the Yid is basically having anah from that wine that was used to pay off his debt. And here Rav allows it. Amalei, Rav responded, well, it's very different. Let's take a close look at the wording of the brisa. Oil tachtai lo itzer ka'amris. In this case, he said oil tachtai. Stand in my place. That's very different. He's like appointing him as an agent. You're doing is sort of representing me. Even though the Mefarshim explained that a guy does not have shlichus, you can't really technically appoint, halachically you can't appoint a guy as an agent, but the fact is he is doing it directly on behalf of the Yid who appointed him to do it on his behalf. So the Yid is basically benefiting from that yayin nesach used to pay off his debt. But in my situation, says Rav, in the case that I cited, he didn't use such direct language. My case is more similar to the next part of the brisa, where it says, but you could tell the guy, please, spare me, malteni, spare me from the tax, from the official. So in this case, if he has other means of sparing the Yid, i.e., with a monetary payoff, so even if he chooses to use wine, pay off his debt, that's the guy's prerogative. It's not considered like the Jew actually had enough in that wine. Says the Mishnah, okay, here's a common, very common shaila. A Jew is a wine seller. He has Jewish customers, non-Jewish customers. How does he go about it? You see, because once the wine will be measured into the containers of the guy, which is filled with the wine, non-kosher wine residue, right? It's going to be tainted and get mixed in and becomes usur. And once that happens, how could he get paid for that wine, which is now usur? Says the Mishnah, one sells his wine to a guy. Pasak means they agreed on a price, they set a rate. So if they did that actually mada before he measured it up, before he handed in the wine, talmud-bavli, in that case, it's okay. And Rashi explains, because at least according to one approach in the Gemara, because the guy already did meshicha. So if they agreed on a price, ready to go. He hands in the wine. And now, the guy does Mashicha. He's kainit. So even if he later touches it and gets it, it's okay. Because now it's his own wine that he's tampering with. So the Yid can certainly get paid for the wine that he sold him before it became Asr. So Pasak Ashlei Modad. If he was Pasak, they set a price before he measured up the containers. Dam of Mutar. In this case, he can get paid for it. But Modad Ashlei Pasak. But if he filled up his container before he set a price, the guy is not really comfortable yet with this deal. He might change the price. He might hike them. He might charge him anything. So he doesn't really have that smichus das. They didn't really close the deal. Dam of Asur in this case. Even if the guy walks away with the wine, that Mashicha is not really effective. Since there was no set price, there was no agreed rate. The deal's not over. There's no transfer of ownership. So now when the guy touches the wine, technically he's touching the wine of the Yisrael and becomes Asr. Now, when he decides to buy it, he can't pay for that wine. The Yisrael can't accept payment for wine, his own wine, which is now Asr. Dam of Asr. Okay, this takes us to a very general discussion regarding kinyanim. So, how does one acquire something? By way of pain, by way of doing Mashicha, physical acquisition. You should know that by a guy. He's kainah through doing Mashicha. Rashi says, even though he didn't actually transfer payment yet, he's kainah. And actually, Tosfos explains, this really relates to a discussion in a different Masechta, in Bava Metzia, Machlekes there, regarding a Yisrael. How does a Yid make a kinyan from another Yisrael? Is it by actually doing payment, or is it by doing a Mashicha, Machlekes there? And the Gemara learns that by a Goy it's different than a Yisrael, just the opposite. So if you hold that Kesef works by the Yisrael, so by a Goy it's Mashicha. If you hold that by Yisrael, Mashicha is required, by the Goy it's just the opposite. You need Kesef, because the Pasuk says, Amitecha, only with your colleague, with your equal. By the Goy it works differently. So a Meimer who says Mashicha, holds that by Yisrael, Kesef works, therefore by a Goy it's just the opposite. And soon we're going to have Rav Ashi who goes the other way. He says that by the Goy, Mashicha doesn't really work, you need to have Kinyan Kesef. That's basically the underlying concept that that's the basis of the Machlekes Meimer and Rav Ashi. Okay, so Amar Meimer holds Mashicha, by B'cham Koina, by a Goy it's Mashicha. Teda. Here's a proof. Dani Parsoy, look at these Persians. How do they do their, transactions? Mishadri, they send pardashni, gifts, lahadadi to each other, lehadri behu. They don't backtrack, don't change their minds. Why? Because once the recipient takes possession, does Mashicha, it's a done deal. And Tosfos explains, we don't necessarily prove anything from what Goyim do today, but he says apparently it's something that was established. He says Minig Aveiseim was established in their culture. This is the way we finalize deals. Apparently it's rooted in reality and in halacha and Torah. It's been this way all along. That Mashicha makes a kinyan. Rav Ashi Amar, he disagrees. I can certainly tell you Mashicha, but Mashicha doesn't work by a guy. You need payment. But the reason why they don't back off, they have a haughtiness. It's beneath their dignity to back out once they give something. But technically, Mashicha isn't really an established kinyan. Tosfos actually learns that these weren't gifts; these were transactions that were meant to be, paid for. But because otherwise, if it's just a gift and there's no money in the equation, then of course the Mashicha is adequate. What more could you? What more do you need? Okay. In any case, general question: Mashicha by a Goy, effective or ineffective? A Meimer says yes, it works. Rashi says it doesn't. Amar Rav Ashi says Rav Ashi, how do I even know that this in fact is true? That Mashicha is not an effective kinyan by a Goy? From a story that took place with Rav, and it relates to Yayin Nesach. Mida Amarlu Rav. Rav had addressed these wine sellers, Lahanu Savyosa, these Jewish wine sellers. And he told them like this, Ki kailisu chamra. When you sell your wine, when you measure up the wine for your Goyish customers, Shaklu zuzi minayu. Take care to first accept payment for that wine. Then you go pass on the wine. Now, if they came without money, what do you do then? Lend them money. If they have no money with them, first loan them some money. Give them $100 as a loan. Okay, so they owe you the money as a loan. And then take that money, accept it as payment. Take it as payment. This way, they owe you $100 as a loan, obligation, not as payment for the wine. Right? So you lend them money, they owe you the $100. Okay, fine, done. Then they give you that money as payment for the wine. And then you give them the wine. Why? What's the problem? If you don't follow this sequence, you're in trouble. Because if you just hand them the wine without payment, and then they tamper with the wine, it turns into yayin nesach. Guess whose wine just got ruined? Your wine. It's still yours. And then later on, when you'll accept payment for that wine, it's like you're selling yayin nesach. You have any benefit from yayin nesach, which is forbidden. And then when you go ahead and you take payment, it's as though you took money for yayin nesach. Okay, end of story. Says Rav Ashi, if you're going to tell me that a guy acquires, takes possession through Mashiach, what's the issue? As soon as the guy makes Mashiach on that wine, it's his. Okay, before you touched it, before it's sitting in the clip, it's his. Kanya. And now he's obligated to pay for that wine. It only turns yayin nesach later on when he touches it. So what's the issue? Says the Gemara, no. Either kokayel v'rami. The money of the Israel, true if the seller would be measuring it up into the v'rami and putting it into the container belonging to the seller, kosher container. Then of course he would have a point. That's not the case. The kokayel v'rami. He's measuring it up and putting it into the kli of the customer of the guy. And the kli of the guy, the customer's container, which has some remnants of yayin nesach in it. And then that wine, when it hits the kli, it gets mixed in and it gets asr. That's the halacha. When it gets mixed up with yayin nesach, the whole thing becomes asr. So, even if we'll say that Mashiach does work by a guy, it wouldn't help us in this case. Because the wine became forbidden before the guy even got a chance to do Mashiach. So Rav Ashi tried to prove that apparently Mashiach doesn't work. Otherwise, what's the issue? There is an issue, because it becomes asr before he even made Mashiach. Soif, 1 second, says the Gemara. Ultimately, kimot lavira de mana. How could you say that would be a concern? The mixing with the remnants of the wine. Look, kimot lavira de mana kanyu. As soon as the wine enters the airspace of the container, before it even touches the bottom of the container, while it's still flowing into through the airspace, Kanya, the guy is kind of the wine. Rashi says kinin hagbah because he's holding the kli and preparing it to accept the wine. And at that point, it's not yet tainted. Yayin nesach lehavi. At what point does it become yayin nesach? Only when it reaches the bottom and makes contact with the kli. Adamati la re'isei the until it gets to the bottom of the kli and hits the bottom surface inside the kli. So what was the problem here? Why was Rav warning them to take advance payment? Well, what's the big deal? If the guy can make a kinyan mashiach or kinyan hagbah, which is pretty much on the same track, the wine would be safe and sound. The kinyan occurs before there's any contact. Oh, shma meno nitzuk chibur. Shall we say that this would work because nitzuk means a flow, right? So when you pour, and there's a continuous flow. So basically, the bottom of the flow hits the bottom of the inside, surface, the bottom of the kli, and the whole flow, all the way, even out of the kli, all the way from your barrel into his thing, that unit of liquid is like one continuous unit, one continuous entity. Nitzik chibur is considered a connection. So the wine, even on its way into the kli, which has not yet arrived into the airspace of the kli, is considered one and connected with the whole unit, including the portion that already hit the kli on the bottom, and now all becomes yain nesach and aser. So that would explain why Rab had to warn him to accept payment before he gives it up, because once he starts pouring, everything becomes aser. Says well, no, not necessarily. No, you don't have to go that far. If to go actually be holding the cleanest hands, hachinami, so then you would have a point, because the question would be, why can't the guy just be kind of through the avir, through the airspace of the kli, and in terms of the fact that the bottom of that flow touched the bottom of the kli, that wouldn't affect the entire nitzuk, entire body of liquid. It would still be considered kosher, in which case there's no problem, because he's kind of before it becomes tainted, right? So that would be in the case where the guy is actually holding the kli, in which case he's kind of with hagbah, in terms of anything that enters the airspace of the kli. No, we're speaking about a case where the kli is sitting on the floor, since container is on the floor. So in this case, you can't say that the guy acquires through the airspace of the kli, because that only works if he's actually holding the kli. He's involved in receiving the liquid and receiving the wine. He's directing it, in a way that the wine will actually reach the kli. So he's involved and he's doing a kinyan by holding the kli. But since the manach ha'ara is sitting on the floor, he's not physically involved. He's not holding it. He's not lifting it. There's no kinyan here. Okay, so that explains why it's a problem. Because the kinyan will only happen later, when he actually does the mashicha. But before that happens, the wine is now already sitting in the kli and got tainted by the yain nesach in the kli. Ask the Gemara, what do you mean? Even if the kli is sitting on the floor, whose kli is it? We said it's the customer's keli. Okay, v'tikni le'kelev, one's container. Can't make a kinyan on his behalf. It's like a chutz. It's my property. It's my domain. So back to the question: what's the problem? Any wine that enters the airspace of the kli automatically becomes property of the customer before there's actual contact with the inside of the kli and the remnants of the yain nesach which taints the wine. Do you mean to say that we can deduce from here that a kli of a lekeach? So if a customer walks into a store, so he's now technically standing in the seller's domain, and he has his container. The question is, can he use that container to acquire something? Or do we say no, since it's sitting in the fellow store, it's like batal, it's subordinate, it becomes, part and parcel of the surrounding environment, it can't create its own entity of space. The kli of the lekech is sitting in the reshus, in the store of the seller. Lekech can't use that kli to acquire anything. And that's why he's not going to be kind of the wine. No, not necessarily. You don't have to say that. Perhaps you can say typically a lekech can use his kli to be kind of, even if he's sitting in the other person's property. So then what's the issue with the wine seller? Why does he have to get paid before he let it be considered a kinyan for the lekech? And then it turns into yain nesach after it hits the bottom of the kli, right? We're speaking going to ika akeves yain apume de kuzanta. Very simple. We're speaking that the Jewish wine seller pours into the customer's kli, and there's akeves yain bepuma. There's like a little bit of droplets of wine sitting along the lips of the pail, of the pitcher or whatever that he's pouring it into. So he's pouring it through that area which is already tainted with yain nesach. Okay, so that explains things. The kama as the wine flows through that spot and touches the traces of yain nesach in sichlei, it becomes yain nesach. It gets affected and tainted. So, in any case, that explains what the issue was. So perhaps a guy could make meshicha, not like Rav Ashi. He could be kind with meshicha with hagbah. So why does the seller have to ensure that the wine is already sold before it gets poured in? Because as he starts pouring it, it gets affected and tainted and contaminated, and you can't sell it anymore. It becomes yain nesach. Okay, and again, it's only because of that, a couple of droplets that get mixed in. Says the Gemara, it's only a couple of drops. Ukaman, the loik Rav Shimon Gamliel. So we're not going like Rav Shimon Gamliel, who says that when a little yain nesach gets mixed into kosher wine, no problem, just sell it and deduct for that little bit. The Rav Shimon Gamliel, according to him, he told us, Imachar kulay, sell it all. Let it come to a guy, chutz, just deduct the value of that little bit of problematic, yain nesach shaboy. You can sell the rest, just deduct for the yain nesach content. So what's the problem here? Sell to the Gaisha customer and just don't charge him for that little drop that, what's the problem? Right? You're not charging him for that, for those traces of yain nesach. You're charging him for your kosher wine. Says the Gemara, midi, hutama lil Rav. This whole discussion pertained to Rav, right? Who was instructing the sellers, right? Rav already told us. Halacha. Yeah, in fact, we adopt the shita of Rav Shimon Gamliel only b'chavis. If it's a mix of barrels, so a barrel full of yain nesach got mixed into the other barrels, so each one is sort of stands alone. You can sell the mix, just don't charge for the avaloi yain b'yain. If it's wine and wine, and it gets blended together, gets mixed together, it's one unit, you can't sell it at all, it becomes asur b'han. No. So that explains our concern. Meis becomes a kash. So back to the discussion between Meimar and Rav Ashi. Meimar, who says a guy works with Mashiach, whereas Rashi disagreed. Meis becomes a kasha. Lokech grutois, we had this price a couple of weeks ago. A person purchases, scrap metal from a guy, and guess what? He finds amongst them an idol of Avodah Zarah. Lokech grutois me'ovid he finds an idol. He wants to give it back. So it depends at what stage. If he did Mashiach, the Jew did Mashiach before he actually paid, yeah, so just give it back. You haven't really acquired it, it's not yours, you're not selling it back, you just, you never got it. But if the Mashiach took place after he paid for it, it's too late, it belongs to the Yisrael, you have to destroy it, take it to the Dead Sea. Question is, if Mashiach works with respect to a guy, what's the problem? So how could he give it back to the guy? So in the first case, we allow him to give it back, but the Yisrael already did Mashiach, it's his. You can't have enough from your idol. It's yours. The reason is because it appears like, meaning it presents like a mekach tos, like a mistaken transaction. And although the Gemara uses the word mechsi, but the Varshim explain just a way of expression. It means to say, this is a mekach tos. Why? The Yid never intended on buying this idol. It wasn't part of the transaction, a mistake. Amar Rava. Says Rava, okay, so that explains why in the Reisha it's mekach tos, but seifa la mekach tos. So in the first scenario, you allow him to give it back, mekach tos. What about the second case where he paid, but he certainly didn't want to buy an idol? Why is it not a mekach tos? Why is it different? Why can't he give it back? Elam Rava says, Rava, you're right. Reisha v'seifa mekach tos, in both cases, technically, it's no deal. But we're concerned about optics. V'reisha, in the first case, we didn't pay for it. He didn't pay, he just did Mashiach l'mischasi, it doesn't appear. It doesn't give the impression to the onlooker Yisrael, like the Yisrael acquired an Avodah Zarah. He didn't really pay for it, just took delivery, still inspecting it, so it doesn't appear bad. But say in the second case where he paid for it, you have Zuzi, since he paid, Mischazi, it just looks like, even though halachically it's not his, it's just a mistake, but it looks Mischazi, like the Yid took possession of an idol, therefore he can't give it back. I have a kash. You tell me that Mashiach doesn't work by a guy. Let's take a look at our Mishnah over here in Avodah Zarah. Tashma, right? He sold his guy some wine. Says the Mishnah, Pasag actually modat. If he did the pasag, the psika, which means they agreed on a price before he measured up the wine, before he handed him the wine, so then he can accept payment. Now, if you're going to tell him Mashiach doesn't work by a guy, how can he get paid for that? If the guy didn't pay, hasn't yet transferred payment, plus the fact that he took possession doesn't really make it his. So now when he tampers with the wine, he's now making the wine yain nesach, while it's still technically belonging to the seller. Now he's going to pay for it. How could he take payment for that? According to you, that Mashiach doesn't work. Well, Hachmai Skinner says the Gemara. Says Rav Ashi. Guess what? He paid for it. But speaking, in fact, the Akdim le dinar. He already gave him advance payment. He gave him a dinar, Rashi says. He gave him a large amount on account. It's all paid for in advance. Oh, if it's paid for, then it's his. Says the Gemara, Yachi, if that's the case, Amos Sefer. Let's take a look at the second part of the Mishnah, where it says, Ma'adad ashlei pasak. So he transferred him the wine before they agreed on a price. Dama Vasur, in this case, he can't get paid for it, because it already turned into Yainesa before they completed their transaction. What do you mean? The transaction has been completed with the advance payment. If he gave him a dinar in advance, why can't he keep that money? It's paid for. It's paid for. He took possession. It's done. Hamar Lacey says like this. According to your opinion, you say the Amras, you say Mashiach Koine. Okay, you hold the Mashiach works. So how are you going to explain the difference between both cases? Why in the first case, where they set the price and he took it, it's okay. We'll say in the second case, we didn't set a price. He can't take payment. What's the difference? He did Mashiach. Belongs to the guy before it became Yain Nesach. Oh, so you must say that Pasak is critical. Pasak means they agreed on a price. Pasak Samcha Daite. If they agreed on a price before they, Samcha Daite. He feels confident. He feels secure. He knows he's not going to be taken advantage of. He goes through the deal. Loi Pasak. But if they haven't yet set a price, Lan Samcha Daite. He doesn't feel comfortable with this deal. He may take advantage of him and hike the price. So the deal is not done. So even if you say Mashiach technically is a kinyan, but it's not so in this case, where there was no psika. And that's why in the Seifa, it's a problem. Says Rav Ashi, Ludidinam. Likewise, according to my position, I hold Mashiach doesn't work, but we're speaking that it was paid for in advance. It doesn't matter. Even if he gave him money in advance, you still need Pasak. You have to agree on a price. Pasak, then Samcha Daite, then he's okay with it. Loi Pasak goes at a price, then Samcha Daite, he's not okay with it. No deal. And therefore, when he takes possession, he does Yain Nesach with it, it's still technically belonging to the seller. And that's a problem. Amal Ravina Ravashi. So Ravina turns to Ravashi with another akasha. I want to bring a raya to a meimar that Mashiach works by a guy. Tashma, Damar Chibar Amar Rabbi Yechanan. Says Rabbi Yechanan ben Noach. Ben Noach is a guy, right? Nerag al pachas b'shavar pruta, if he steals even less than a pruta worth of money, whatever, from a Yisrael, he's chayav misa. Because, as Rashi explains, but by Yisrael, we just forgive each other. There's mechila, less than a pruta, it's not worth our while. We're just meichel. By a guy, no, guy is steadfast. Even less than a penny, he's not going to give up. He's not going to be meichel. So if the guy steals even a small amount of money from Yisrael, it's considered mamain. Even such a small amount of value is regarded as money in the guy world, and therefore it's considered an act of theft. Now, there's no point of returning it to the Yisrael because he was Ma'ich already. But he gets his Misa, right? Rashi brings that on all these Sheva mitzvahs, if he violates, he gets Misa. Now, according to you, that physical possession, taking possession of an item by a guy doesn't work. Right? So why are we killing the guy? What did he do wrong? Amai Nerag. Although he took this item, but there's no halachic transfer of ownership. He didn't really take possession. Wherever it is, he's still holding it on behalf of the owner because there's no kinyan Mashiach. The answer is Mishum, the Tzara li Yisrael. The fact is, he agonized the Yisrael, the victim. And that's reason enough to give him Misa. He did an act of Gezela, right? Which brought tsar, discomfort to the owner. So although, in halachic terms, there was no transfer of that's considered Gezela, and he gets Misa. Says the Gemara, Umay lo nitan li shavin. So what does Rabbi Yechon mean when it says, well, it's not meant to be returned? Obviously, it was never even taken, technically, right? There was no transfer ownership. Deina b'Torah say shavin just means to say that there's no concept of returning. You see, by a yid who steals, so he now sort of acquires it. He has a chiyuv to give it back. It's like zela. In fact, by us, it can actually correct. It can undo the avera. It's called a lav hanitak laseh. If one steals, he can now turn it around by giving it back and undoing the. But by a guy, once he steals, it's a done deal. Especially if we're saying that he's not even kaina. So wherever the item is, technically it's still belonging to the owner. So there's no concept, no chiyuv, there's no concept of giving it back. That's how Rashi learns. Wherever it is, it belongs to the Yisrael. It belongs to the owner. Taisus learns a bit differently. He says that for speaking that it's less than a pruta. So really the Yisrael already, was Meichel. So there's no point in giving it back. And in terms of the tsar, the pain and discomfort, it's too late for that. So that was the Gemara's kasha. What does it mean? Obviously, there's nothing to give back. That's exactly the concept of returning doesn't apply. Okay. Says the Gemara. So you're telling me really there's no Mashiach, it's only because of the Tsar. Yachim is safe. If that's the case, let's move on to the next part of the Bryce. So guy number 1 stole the item, and then guy number 2 stole it from guy number 1. The second guy comes along, when tell him, men steal it from the first guy. He also gets killed. Hold it. Bishleima Reisham Tsar the Yisrael. Understand that the first guy is deserving of punishment, although there was no kinyan, but he afflicted the Yisrael, gave him tsar. Elo seifa my of it, but in the second case, in the second stage of the game, when the second guy took it from the first guy, what did he do wrong? My of it. He didn't steal from the first guy, never belonged to the first guy. And he certainly wasn't adding any element of tsar to the original Yisrael, right? The thing was gone already, by way of the first guy's act. Oh, so here we see, in fact, we can prove from this halacha the fact that the second guy is also considered a thief because he stole it from the first guy. Apparently, Mashiach is kaina. An act of Mashiach makes it his. There's a transfer of ownership. So when the guy stole from the Yid, now he acquired it. To the extent that the second guy comes and steals it from the first guy, he has also committed an act of theft. So you have a right from here. At the shita of Meimar, Mashiach is considered a kinyan by Goyim. Mashiach is kaina. Okay, let's recap. We have actually 3 missions today. We have the halacha of the Baleshes, coming to snatch some food and drink. So if it's Shas Shalom, we have to be concerned. Shas Mechama, we're not concerned. About Yain Nesach, a yid was paid by a guy with the wine, he can just send it back, provided he didn't do any kinyan. He can have somebody take care of his taxes, provided it wasn't meant to be a wine payment. We have the halacha of selling wine to Geisha customers. Mishnah says it depends if there was a psika, there was a set rate before he transferred the wine, in which case it's considered a complete sale and now belongs to the guy before it turns into yain nesa. So the yid can take payment for it, but otherwise it's still considered the Yisrael's wine. And once it turns into yain nesa, he can't get paid for it. According to Rav Ashi, who says the Mashiach doesn't work by a guy, apparently we're speaking there was advance payment as well. There's a ma'aseh of kesef, which facilitates the transfer of ownership to the guy. So this took us into this machlekes, Meimer and Rav Ashi, a general machlekes regarding how does a guy make a kinyan from a yid or amongst themselves? Whether or not Mashiach works, and according to the conclusion, it was based on the raya from the halacha of Gezel, the paska Mashiach, Bovid Gechavim is koine shmamina. All the best to you and Hatzlacha.